2 decades after the end of the Cold War, we face a cruel irony of history. The risk of a nuclear confrontation between nations has gone down, but the risk of nuclear attack has gone up.
President Obama keeping the focus on nuclear terrorism at his summit today. It may be the second day in a row now that the Obama administration policy has not caused a pitched partisan battle here in D.C.
Indeed, although the gridlock is pretty bad. We're going on a week of nukes. This may be the last day. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And you can catch us all day at Twitter. It's twitter.com/thenote. You can answer our question of the day, give us questions for the guests. We're here.
Get us started. What is your top line today? Presidential
pressure. It is day 2 of President Obama's nuclear summit. It is the final day, and we'll have a press conference later this afternoon to wrap it up. We're getting to see some glimpses, though, of what might be the real impact of this summit. We saw China come around yesterday and acknowledge in a meeting with President Obama that they'll be supporting new sanctions against Iran, and that's a big development. And a little announcement this morning that the next nuclear summit in 2012 is going to be in South Korea.
Yeah, the China announcement is huge in the sense that if they're really going to support a sanction, it makes you wonder if those sanctions are going to have teeth, or if this is just a sort of public display of really trying to get all the players together, at least in the concept that there needs to be something else. If China doesn't go along at the end, the sanctions actually may be a little bit stronger, but we'll see how that plays out. Political powerhouse. Yes, Andy Stern, the president of SEIU, that politically powerful union here in Washington, is set to step down, according to reports. Secretary-Treasurer Anna Berger is eyed as the most likely person to succeed him. And of course, if you have been checking those White House visitor logs that the Secret Service has been releasing, you will see that Andy Stern is one of the most the person that has visited the White House the most. His voice gets heard inside this White House.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting voice. He's been at the head of the SEIU for, I think, 14 years now, and it's been a tumultuous time. There was a messy divorce with the AFL-CIO.
He led that divorce.
That's right,
yeah,
that he was very much a key part of. I want to know if he gets to keep all those great purple ties. So if he gets to hand that to the next.
His wardrobe is going to have a major change.
Yeah, that's right. Week Tea. Sarah Palin has chosen Boston for her next appearance at a Tea Party rally. Get it? It's Tea Party, Boston. She'll be there tomorrow. Good. The big story, though, is becoming who's not attending. Those who are saying they're not going to be there include the major Republican gubernatorial candidate, Charlie Baker, plus his running mate. Both have something better to do. And, of course, Senator Scott Brown, who might be received well by a crowd like this. They're deciding not to be there. We're seeing, I think, this play out in different ways in different parts of the country, obviously. Palin cuts both ways very clearly for a lot of Republicans. People may want to tap into that organizing strength and that energy, but for a Republican gubernatorial candidate like Charlie Baker, who's really running as more of a mainstream Republican, you have to be careful about that.
Listen, it's still, if you're running as a Republican in Massachusetts, that is still it's not a slam dunk here. Scott Brown, though, his victory, I think, was always a bit overwritten about how much the Tea Partiers really played a role into that. And I will say he was also one of the 4 Republicans yesterday that voted to move the debate forward on that unemployment insurance. So he is voting like a Republican from Massachusetts. And finally today, FLOTUS's first solo trip. Yes, the First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama, has now landed in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, an unannounced stop, actually. She's headed to Mexico City for her first foreign trip. And now we're learning that Dr. Jill Biden, the so-called Second Lady of the United States, is with her as well for this trip in Haiti, checking in on the relief efforts there after that terrible earthquake.
And a different side of both the First and Second Ladies we see a little bit. Michelle Obama, though, striking out on this trip. I think it's going to be very closely watched because she's obviously a popular figure. She's tried to leverage that in some domestic areas of concern. We haven't seen her overseas.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see the pictures coming out of this trip. We're going to begin with the big Supreme Court battle that is ahead of us. We are joined by Marge Baker. She's the Executive Vice President for Policy and Program Planning at People for the American Way, one of those liberal interest groups that just sinks their teeth into a Supreme Court battle like this one. And so let me begin, I guess, first saying, why do you sink your teeth into something like this? Stevens stepping down and you have a Democratic president who's going to replace someone there. This is not about the balance of the court, right?
I think this is about a national conversation we are about to have about what the Supreme Court is all about. I think the American public are getting, in a fundamental way that they haven't before, in large measure because of the very controversial Citizens United decision that came down in January, campaign finance decision that Stevens wrote a brilliant dissent in. Because of that decision, people are getting and understanding in a fundamental way the impact that the court has in their lives. So I think this is about not just this nomination. This is not just about replacing Stevens, who, by the way, the country owes a huge debt of gratitude to for his service to the country. It's about what the court is about, and it's about getting away from some of the taglines that don't make much sense about activist judges and legislating from the bench. Getting to what is it really about to have a justice on the court who understand the impact of the law on the lives of average Americans.
One of the big constitutional questions that's come up recently from the other side of this debate from conservatives recently, they're challenging the health care law and saying that it's unconstitutional, it goes too far with interpretations of the Commerce Clause. That's going to be a big focus as well. What do you expect to come out of that in terms of the confirmation hearings?
Yeah, I think this is a time for a public debate about what I call the for the people issues. The mandate of our founders created a government of, by, and for the people. And there are for the people issues now front and center. People who are purchasers and providers of health insurance, people who are consumers of bank services and investors in banks, people who breathe the air, drink the water, work in our factories, work in our mines. There are for the people issues that are up front and center that this administration and this Congress were elected to develop policies on, and it is about having a court who is and justices who are not going to undo that fundamental compact with the American people about having the government there for the people.
Now, I understand that you're talking about a national conversation that you would like to have and sort of point to, but you've seen these Supreme Court nominations before. I mean, once a nominee is named, it becomes all about their record, their speeches. That's sort of where the narrative gets focused in the media. And I'm wondering why you think there's going to be this national conversation about the impact of the court now in a way that there wasn't for Roberts, Alito, or Sotomayor.
Because I think what the court has done recently with the Lilly Ledbetter decision, with the Citizens United decision, the buzzwords don't make any sense anymore. You can't have a hearing that's about not legislating from the bench or judicial activism. I mean, the court's given a lie to those. Those framings don't mean anymore. I saw now they're trying to talk about instead end results, sort of the court trying to get to outcomes-based decision. That's the same thing. I mean, those are buzzwords, and what it does is they're very transactional. It talks about it doesn't talk about this underlying compact that I really think the American public gets. We did polling right after Citizens United came down, across ideological lines, across party lines. People get the impact that that decision had in their lives and the way in which it opened up the elections to intrusion from corporate interests they don't like.
As you know, President Obama focusing pretty tightly on a short list of around 10 names. We've reported about 8 of those so far that we know of. As this is being conceptualized, and we put the question out via Twitter as well, whether President Obama should be thinking about how a candidate that can get Republican votes, or whether he should just say, look, you know, we've seen what Republicans are likely to be on this. We've got 59 Democratic senators. Just to take a glimpse at one response we got from Port Knox 33, he says he clearly should be thinking about that if he doesn't want his nominee's confirmation to be blocked for months. Is that a factor? Should he be thinking, I want someone who I know can be easily confirmable, as opposed to someone I just think is the best?
I think he's going to nominate somebody along the criteria that he mentioned on Friday. He's going to
Well, clearly, he said that. But if he's saying, okay, I can get someone that can get 70 or 80 votes, or I can get someone that can squeak through with just Democrats.
I think what he can and should do is go through the calculation of who is the best person that he can nominate, who is going to serve the interest of the American public, who's not going to undermine this compact with the American people about government being there for them and for their interests.
And if Republicans oppose, so be it?
I think there's a lot of talk right now, a lot of bluster. I think when push comes to shove, I think the Republicans, many of who are on record saying it's unconstitutional to filibuster a nominee.
Of course, the president himself clearly didn't feel that way when he was joining a filibuster effort.
But he never said it was constitutional or not constitutional. He said, you know, you can do it. What the Republicans said is it's unconstitutional to do what some of them are saying they're going to do now. It's a hard thing to back off of.
Marge Baker, the People for the American Way. We will continue to check in with you throughout this process that is going to dominate Washington for the next couple months.